We are back on Patriots 4th and 2, the official podcast, PatsFans.com. I'm Russ Goldman. Along with me, as always, is Steve Balestrieri today in the Secret Square, and Derek Havens, who was at the Patriots game on Monday night. Definitely want Derek's thoughts on the game. This episode, we're going to look back at the victory, and I'm going to ask the question, is a win a win? It sounds simple, but we're going to talk a little bit about it. I have a poll I'm going to share with everyone because I just posted it, and thanks to Miguel, I got a good amount of votes on it. Was it a Patriots victory or a Cardinals loss? Which way do you look at it? So we're going to talk about that. Later on in the show, we will preview the upcoming game for the Patriots against the Vegas Raiders. And also, I want to mention that on the last show, I had said, well, a couple things. First of all, I got my prediction wrong on the game very badly, so I was wrong there. Thankfully, I was wrong. And also, I said the season is over. I said that on the last show. I'm going to clarify what I meant by that in the middle of the show. Okay. Before we get going, as always, please do subscribe on YouTube to the PatsFans.com YouTube channel. And also do subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe. It does help Patriots fans find us. Okay. So, guys, let's get going with this. And like I mentioned, I had done a poll. Just put it up, literally just put it up. I thought this is a good place to start. And then, of course, Derek, I want to get your thoughts on the game. But let's start here because I think it's always a good place to start when we look at what the fans are thinking and what we're thinking as well. So let's start here. Derek, I want to get your thoughts. I'll share mine. Was it a Patriots win or a Cardinals loss? And you can't say a little bit of both. Don't be on the fence here, my friend. And I'll share the results in a little bit.
I definitely think it was a Patriots win. I felt like the Patriots didn't have a great game again offensively, which is pretty much par for the course for the season. But I did think they made the most. They made the most plays in order to win the game. They did what they needed to do. I thought that offensively there were continuous. It's just there's just nothing that's in rhythm with this offense. It's very hard for them to kind of sequentially put plays together. I thought that they did a couple of times. I thought it was very fun. If you listened to Steve and I talk about the draft in the offseason, we talk about constantly, like the last few years, we talk about these team building and how important it is to see the young guys step up. This is a poster child for your young players. Okay. I mean, and it was awesome to see Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong and Marcus Jones. I mean, man, I hate to break my arm, pat myself on the back, but Marcus Jones is a dynamic playmaker for this team. And it was,
you guys called it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know if anyone saw this. I mean, what he's doing right now is really not usually done at the professional level. He played, I want to say either 8 or 10 snaps on offense. He played special teams, which he could be an all-pro at, from a return standpoint. Defensively, he got his first pick. I thought Cole Strange had some nice reps against J.J. Watt. I really was impressed by a lot of the young guys on this team. And look, it wasn't perfect. The Cardinals certainly made plenty of errors. It didn't help that the third play of the game, Kyler Murray went down, tore his ACL. That's too bad for him. And, wish him a speedy recovery. That sucks to see. But honestly, I just thought that the Patriots were prepared for the game. I thought they executed pretty well for the most part, outside of, several plays, obviously, but it was a good solid game, across the board, at least with our adjusted scale for what this team is.
Okay. And like I said, I want to talk about that in the middle of the show, Derek. Before I go to Steve and I share the poll, I want to just get back to you and just talk about your experience at the game. And I'm so glad that you got to experience this with your family. You got to meet other Patriots fans. Sounds like what we were talking about before we went live. You were a little bit surprised. You said maybe 60 to 40% being Patriots fans there.
Yeah, no, it was so for people who have listened to us for a while, I don't know. So I live in Scottsdale now. I've spent time between the greater Boston area and Arizona for the majority of my life. And the last game I was at with my dad, I think it was 2013 on Christmas Eve versus the Dolphins at Gillette. And so he doesn't go to games very often. My brothers, one of them had never been to a Patriots game. The other one hadn't been to a Patriots game since 2000 when the Cardinals played the Patriots at Arizona State.
Wow.
And it was fun to go, the four of us. We
That's
also
great.
went with our girlfriends, fiancés. My stepmother was there. We had a good time. It was fun. It was fun to be there all together. We had amazing seats. There was a ton of Patriots fans there. They were loud. They were animated. I was in the parking lot, and two guys, I don't know if they're listening, but Alan and Dan were walking through, and we ended up just talking because I commented on his jersey. They were meeting some friends. Next thing I know, we're all in the parking lot, and there's like 30 Patriots fans just talking, having beers, talking about the season. I think 28 of them wanted to fire Matt Patricia. That's fine. I agree.
That's understandable.
So that voice was loud and proud.
That few
also,
out of 30?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I know it's a small number. I also met Sarah Marshall, which many of you know from Twitter.
Oh.
It was excellent to talk to her and get her perspective. And it was just a really good time. I've enjoyed. Everyone knows. The three of us obviously care about the team a lot. And I've covered it from different angles before, but this one was different because it was fun to just spend it with your family and do that. So it was a good time. I appreciate you asking.
Well, I'm glad, Derek. When I saw you posting on Twitter, tweeting about it, I was very happy for you. You all got to be together. You have your own Patriots family. I have mine, Steve, obviously. We all have our own little Patriots family. But then when you get together with your existing family and then you meet new people, especially in Arizona, which has a huge Patriots fan club, by the way, they do.
Yeah,
and
massive.
So for you to see that 40% is amazing, and you got to experience that, people coming that you would not normally meet. I think that's great. I'm very happy for you.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
Mr. Balstrary, before I go to you, I'm actually going to share the results of my poll. And it's interesting, and always big thank you to Miguel, because Miguel retweeted this, and it just gets it out there. There are 387 votes, Steve. The poll,
the Miguel Benson bump is real. I don't know what to tell you.
It is real. It is absolutely real. This is literally an hour. Okay, so we have 387 votes, Steve, and the poll was: did the Patriots win the game or did the Cardinals lose it? Pats won it. It's almost at 60%, and Cardinals lost it at 40%. So very interesting results there. And again, that's a decent amount of votes, honestly.
I'm surprised by that, guys. I'm not
You
gonna
are?
lie. I am. I didn't really think it was. I mean, there was mistakes by.
Well, there are media
Cardinals.
members that would go in the other direction.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised by that. I don't really agree with that.
That's because a lot of these fans have been
brainwashed,
spoon-fed this stuff for 20-something years.
Yeah.
Yep.
And eventually it starts to stick. They question everything. And, as I told Russ, as I told you offline, if we had flipped the script and the Patriots were the Cardinals and the Cardinals were the Patriots, what would everyone be saying? The Cardinals made plays when they had to and the Patriots did not. That's what we'd be hearing.
That's right,
but,
Steve.
This is some they've been doing this for, I don't know, I guess, since Belichick started winning 2001. Did they really win the game or did the Cardinals lose the game? As you said offline, you are what you are record-wise, right?
Right.
Bill Parcells saying.
Right.
They're 7-6. They won the game. The Cardinals didn't lose the game. They lost because of the Patriots. And I get so tired of that narrative. I mean, look, as Derek said, it was far from perfect offensively.
No.
But you know what? They were already without their top receiver, Jacoby Myers. Then, Devontae Parker goes down. And, we'll get to how the officials blew that one. I mean, poor guy was staggering around. He couldn't even
that was
stand
horrible.
up.
I don't mean to laugh. I mean just how bad it was.
Right.
I
mean,
I meant
they
that,
just,
not laughing at him. That was terrible.
it was awful.
Shout out to Nelson Aguilar for being a good
Yes,
teammate.
and
yes,
kudos to Nelson Aguilar for sticking up for his teammate like that. But again, then they lose him. Then Ramondre Stevenson goes down, and now you're left with 2 rookie running backs, and look what they did.
Next man up, Steve.
You talk about next man up.
But you know what, too? What's funny, and Steve, I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's funny about the rookie running backs, Russ, is it's similar. It was very similar to Bailey Zappi in the preseason with both of these guys because
that's a good point.
I didn't think that they didn't perform well in the preseason. I thought Bailey Zappi looked really, really sped up, really, anxious in the pocket, and he kind of came in and became a gamer when he got in this opportunity. Obviously, Pierre Strong had that ridiculously bad penalty in Minnesota, but we hadn't really seen him or Kevin Harris run, and they did next to nothing in the preseason. They came in and they both showed something. I thought you saw Pierre Strong speed. I thought you saw Kevin Harris. I thought you saw his. He had enough wiggle in the middle. He had a couple of runs up the middle where he showed some nice wiggle, but he had a lot of power. I thought he finished runs well. These guys we saw a glimpse of in the preseason. They really outperformed what many expectations were. It was nice to see. Sorry to cut you off, Steve, but it's like we didn't see that in preseason. I thought we talked about. I know Steve, obviously a big South Carolina guy. When we talked offline after the preseason games, I said, Kevin Harris, I kind of like the way he runs, even though the results weren't there. I think you saw that, and you saw kind of the complementary nature of both of them play. It was cool to see. It was cool to see. All right, King, I got to share this comment from Claire. Claire, all right, it's early. All right, keep in your pants. All right, it's too early for this. All right.
That's because she read my report card.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get to Steve's report card in just a bit.
No, going back to that, I mean, I thought Harris and Strong had a really good game, especially, there was no at that point. Oh well, we're going to sit these guys down. The Patriots had no choice.
Throw them in. Yeah.
So they were in, and you know what? They responded. That run by Strong, that 44-yard run, that's the speed that Derek and I were talking about in the the draft stuff that we did. I mean,
that was crazy speed. No, honestly, and I'm glad that you guys had said that. I'm sorry to jump in because that was the part. I'm glad that Derek talked about this. We did not see any of this in the preseason. I want to give kudos to both running backs, but Pierre Strong, I thought, was even a bigger jump from the preseason.
And I was sitting midfield.
Then Harris. I was not ready to see what he gave us there.
Yeah, I was sitting midfield, and he ran on the side of on the side that I was sitting on, and he's running, and you could see it. It was evident. Just in person, he just moved a little bit faster than everybody else, and it was impressive. I mean, I like Damian Harris. I think he seems like a good person. He seems like a good teammate. Obviously, I think he's a very good player. Just because I think Ramondre Stevenson is a better player doesn't mean I think there's not a good spot for Damian Harris. But he is a free agent after the year, and it's not just me, but it seemed like it was pretty evident the team picked its direction when they drafted 2 running backs and 3 in the last 2 years. I said this to Steve offline, Harris and Stevenson complement each other better than you would think on paper, but Stevenson having a guy in Kevin Harris to kind of spell Stevenson and having someone like Pierre Strong with that speed to complement him, I think next year going forward, you're in pretty good hands in the backfield.
I think, as I wrote, I think Strong is the heir apparent to James White, that third down role. I mean, you see that speed he has. If they can get him the ball in space, on an obvious type of passing down, he can motor, he's got the speed. So I think that, and again, talking about is a winner or win, whatever, look at the defense. 6 sacks. Josh Uche was immense.
Yep.
And again, a lot of fans have been fed this negativity for so long. They look for a dark cloud and everything. And I saw a lot of comments that Josh Uche is nothing more than Chase Winovich 2.0.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not the case. I think he's blown that out of the water. But Steve, again, to get to the poll, and then I want to move on because I definitely want to get to your report card. I'm glad that we already kind of touched it with the running backs. Here are my thoughts on why I brought this to the table, why I did a poll. So listen, I'm not going to lie. I still listen. I still watch, even though I know better, Steve. Yes, you're right. I know better, but I still do. And one of the comments I heard, Steve, because I want to talk about this right now, was about Cliff Kingsbury and how Cliff Kingsbury went for it on 4th down. And this is an example of how they lost the game. Now, I understand where they're going on this. However, a player that I think we have ripped a decent amount before the season began, Jelani Tavai, made a wonderful play. So in every instance where I had heard that the Cardinals lost it, the Patriots made a play. It wasn't just that. I could give other examples as well. So this idea that the Patriots lost the game, I'm not buying at all. I mean, I'm talking about the Cardinals lost it. The Patriots won the game because you still have to win the game. You still have to make the plays.
And I'd say this too. I do think the Cardinals, if you want to tell me that the Patriots, I don't know how to phrase it. If you want to say the Patriots got lucky because Kyler Murray went down and they dodged the element of a running quarterback, I'd say yeah. But I would also counter this by saying there are a lot of Cardinals fans that I spoke to on, either during or after the game that thought that Colt McCoy ran the offense better than Kyler did. Because if you haven't really paid attention to the Cardinals this year, Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray have been under fire after both, receiving some big time extensions, and they both have been under fire. I mean, people still think that Cliff's going to get fired after the year, and Kyler has been running around like crazy, and that Colt McCoy is a little bit more patient and willing to throw, where Kyler's just kind of running like a fire drill all the time. And I just think that if you want to tell me, that the Cardinals made some really boneheaded mistakes, I would say I agree. But I also think, the Patriots had more than enough opportunities, to make the plays in order to win the game, and they did it. They did it time and time again. And trust me, anyone listening to the show for the last decade knows that I wouldn't miss an opportunity to dump on the Patriots if I thought that they deserved it. I did not think this was this. I did not think that was this game.
Well, first of all, thanks to Chris and Claire. Claire called you a perv, by the way. And,
yeah, I know. Well, it's not my fault. She said that's not what she meant, but she said she said it with a winking face. Her comment before, so I don't believe her.
But
also, I liked Chris's comment where he said 28 wise men when he's talking. I said 28 at the 30. I was with in the parking lot. Said that they were one of the firemen.
That was awesome. For the people that were, commenting on Cliff Kingsbury there,
right?
I mean, he's done that his whole coaching career. If they're plus side of the 50, they're going for it on 4th down. That's his MO. So it's not like they did something different.
No, it wasn't a shock, Steve. That wasn't a shock.
Every time they got to 4th down, if they were even close to midfield, I figured they were going to go for it.
But Steve, Tavai made the play. And I think that's what gets lost in all this.
Yeah, he made a really good play on that particular one. And, the Patriots made good plays on others. I mean, they sacked him on 1 4th down, speaking of McCoy. But, I mean, Derek, you talked about McCoy running the offense better. I saw something, I want to say it was from Paul Perillo last week, where he said when he's on the run, now obviously Murray is a threat to run and gain some yardage. But when he throws on the run, I think it was Paul. I don't recall the exact stats there, but it was awful when he throws on the run. And his numbers were awful, and I found that really curious because you normally think you have a mobile quarterback. Yeah, he's a threat to run, but if he, gets the defense out of whack there and he starts to run, when he throws it, somebody's going to be wide open. But
Right.
I want to say that was Paul who wrote that.
Okay.
I didn't see it, Steve, but I'll tell you this. I think Kyler's had a lot of problems in the pocket. And the reason is because of his his size. He's just not that tall, and it's hard to see over the over the lineman. He throws better when he can roll out, set his feet, and throw. If he's throwing on the run, he hasn't been playing well. And if he's staying in the pocket, he hasn't been. Both the completion percentages are not extremely high. But I mean, the whole offense has been out of sync. Almost the entire year. And now, granted, they traded for Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, who missed a lot of games, by the way. Kyler's had some injury issues. DeAndre Hopkins missed the first several games. They haven't had a lot of games where they've had all of their personnel. And when they had, prior to this game, they were averaging, I want to say, close to 27 points. Well, they only put up 13 in this game. And that's a credit to the Patriots defense. And I think the Patriots defense hasn't been given enough credit for this game. And I get it. It's Colt McCoy, okay, but you still had a lot of weapons on the other side of the ball. And I thought that they made plays, specifically in the second half, Russ. I thought that, you talk about Josh Uche, who's really emerged the last, I'd say, third or so of a season. And I think he's playing his best football right now. They have found a role for Josh Uche. And look, he spells Judon a lot. Both don't set the edge very well. But Uche has some special bend and pass rushing ability around that edge. And I think what they've done with Josh Uche is, instead of him kind of going up the field and kind of like taking like more like perpendicular type of routes, I guess, to the quarterback, he's really closing on the quarterback a little bit more directly, and his speed is really hard for tackles to handle.
Derek, I think you've seen angles that he's taking.
I think with Josh, you've seen his best football the last 5 games or so, and he's showing that he can be a really good complementary piece to that front seven. He's a weapon up there right now, and it's really nice to see.
Okay,
yeah, and I want to give a little credit to one of the coaches about that. I think Joe Kim has a lot to do with that. He's that martial arts guy that the Patriots use for their hands, because if you notice on that early when he was a rookie and maybe last year in training camp and stuff, we saw that linemen were able to get into him, and he's not a huge guy, so when they were able to get into his body, then he got locked up. If you see the way he's using his hands this year, he's able to keep them away, and then he uses his athleticism and that bend ability, which you can't teach that. I mean, that bend ability, either somebody has it really well or they don't. And I think, you have to look at that as, that's just another tool in the box that he's able to use these days.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not comparing. Please, people who are listening, don't take this as a direct comparison. But like, if you watch someone like Von Miller, he can bend like nobody's business. Like he's incredible. It's not the same as like a Chandler Jones or DeMarcus Ware. It's not like this. I mean, those are all special pass rushers, but the bend and the ability to get underneath the tackle is something Josh Uche does that looks something similar to Miller. Obviously, Miller's one of the greatest pass rushers that the league has ever seen. I'm not comparing the two, but the way it seems like Uche is playing right now, where he's really seems like his traits and his tools
he's figured it out, Derek.
Yeah, I think he has, Russ. I do. I mean, look, we've been talking about this kid for 3 years, okay? I hand up. I'm not usually wrong, Russ, as you know. You can tell I'm not usually
I know.
wrong.
You're never wrong, Derek. I know.
And I thought for sure his rookie year coming out of Michigan, I can't help myself. His rookie year out of Michigan, I thought he would be more impactful early. I mean, heck, we've talked about it on the show 1,000 times. Peter King said he was going to be the defensive player or defensive rookie of the year. Yep. But sometimes it takes the guys a little bit to figure out. I don't know if he's just a situational guy, if he is, but I do know that he's playing his best football right now, and it's coming at a huge time because they've needed it. Because the back, I still am not convinced with the secondary guys. I still think the front seven has helped them cover up a lot of things in the secondary,
Sure.
and with Dietrich Wise having a career year, Matt Judon having a special year, Uche emerging, and Fernie Jennings playing a role. I just think that front seven right now is really, really helping out your back end because I think depth's been a question and it's been a little up and down.
Okay, great stuff. All right, guys, just for time's sake, we're going to go through Steve's report card kind of quick. I'm going to break it up into offense and defense. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the grades, Steve, and I want you to comment on the one that stands out the most from, say, offense and defense. Does that make sense? So let's go to Steve's report card. I'm going to share it right now, and I'm going to go through Steve's grades, and I find them interesting. And if you want to read Steve, please go to PatsFans.com and read them. And Steve, to be honest with you, do you know how I saw your report card today? How did I see your report card today, Steve?
I have no idea.
It would be someone by the name of Claire Cooper shared it. So
yes,
Claire shared it, and that gave me the idea to do Steve's report card and go through it. So that's what we are going to do right now. So let me just pull this up, and we will go through Steve's report card. And like I said, I'm just going to read the grades. Then, Steve, I'll go to you, and let's just talk a little bit about the one that stands out. I want to start with the first one. Quarterback, B-. Running backs, B. Wide receivers, C. Tight ends, B-. Claire. Offensive line, C. So that's on the offense, Steve. Give me your thoughts about your grades and the one that stands out to you. I'm going to say quarterback.
Okay. Mac Jones, I thought, handled the offense very well. He was able to manipulate some of the defensive backs, especially on that Hunter Henry pass, by keeping the safety over to the left. And then he turned to Henry down the seam. I thought that was a really good play by him. I loved the pass that he made to Kendrick Bourne along the sideline. I thought that was probably his best play of the game. And that pass to Nelson Aguilar, on the outside, I think it was for 14 yards when it was 3rd and 13. I thought that was a dime. And, at the end of the game, I was looking at it. He made some not so great plays. But overall, I thought the positives outweighed the negatives. And then, I look at Peyton Manning. I think he knows a little bit about quarterback position. On his show, he said he's made some big-time throws tonight. And he said it's been an impressive game for him.
That's great.
So,
Steve, before I go to Derek and get his thoughts on your grades on the offense, because I just wanted to highlight Mac Jones. I do want to go back and talk a little bit about the tight ends. The frustration I have, and I know Claire will agree with me, I don't think they're utilizing them enough, especially in the passing game. And I'm still wondering why. Now, I've heard the reasoning might be for blocking because the offensive line is crap. And I would actually probably agree with that. But at some point, where the hell is Jonnu Smith in the passing game? And where is more of the passes to Hunter Henry in the seam? Why aren't they doing this more?
Well, he had 2 seam passes to Hunter Henry. One, I think, went for 24. The other one was that big play down the seam where he went for 39.
Right.
He had 3 catches for 70 yards. So, as I wrote, why aren't they doing it more? I mean, it seems every time they attempt one of these, it works.
Exactly.
So why don't you keep doing it until the other team stops it rather than the other way around? Hey, it worked, but now, we're going to throw a 2-yard bubble screen.
Well, I hate to go to talk about Matt Patricia, but that goes to the offensive coordinator in name. He's not, but it's something that Josh McDaniels would do, Derek. He would run a play until you would stop it. Why the heck are they not doing it? And I actually put blame on Matt Patricia on this one because it's working, Derek. It's working. Why are you not using it more? What, like I said, I heard part of the reasoning is that they want these guys to block. Screw that. If this is going to work, keep doing it until they stop it, Derek.
No, it's honestly, it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen on a football field. I'm not kidding. It's for one, Hunter Henry has struggled blocking all year long. I don't know why they think it's a good idea to put Hunter Henry blocking against JJ Watt. He has shown the ability that he cannot do it this season. He consistently is being put on an island against these pass rushers, and I don't understand it. It's just not his strong suit. He should be doing what he did in this game, which is running up the seam and creating some space vertically. And I'll say this too, Russ, Steve and I talked offline yesterday, and we were just kind of talking about the game, and for so many years we talked about the Patriots building a team and being greater than the sum of their parts. And right now they're less than the sum of their parts on offense. They're not maximizing this group's ability. You can tell me they don't have great personnel, and I would agree with you, but they're better than what they're showing right now.
I totally agree, Derek, and that's the frustrating part of this.
And that's coaching, Russ. That's coaching.
No, and listen, I didn't want to go there with the coaching, okay? I'm there now because it's very obvious, Steve. It's very obvious when I compare it to the offensive coordinator prior, and I know what he would be doing. He would be running a play until you stopped it. But we got a guy here that is more interested in bubble screens or any type of screen because that's the tendency to go against what the Cardinals are doing. Well, you know what? If something's working, you do it until it doesn't, Steve.
I agree. I mean, he is so cautious to the point of being afraid.
But he ran a defense this way too. Okay, let's call a spade here, as my father would say. He ran a defense very conservatively.
Yep. He was very conservative as a defensive coordinator. He always tried to keep everything in front of him, not give up the big play, but we'll let, up the little short stuff all game long. But, you have to see, he's a smart dude.
He's very smart.
He's a very, very smart guy. And he has to see it ain't working. And teams are just, first quarter, you might hit a couple of those screens. And then, as they're coming off the field, the defensive coaches who get paid too on the other side, they're telling their players, okay, this is what they're running. And what do you see? You see the linebackers creeping up and the safeties creeping up. And those short screen passes don't work anymore.
Yep.
And, look at the Buffalo game a week ago. They hit that first screen. That was Marcus Jones' first snap on offense. I'm sure Buffalo thought it was just, a decoy of something, whatever. Right. They probably assumed he was going to run deep with his speed. And they hit it for a touchdown. What happened after that? The rest of the game, they only got a field goal. Because Buffalo figured it out, and they weren't going to let you beat them that way.
Right. And then you move on to something else, Steve. And that's the point that I don't get here, is that as a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator, why are you banging your head against the wall by continually doing the same thing, especially when it's not working?
I just don't know if he knows how to do it any other way. That's the thing. It's like, and you're seeing issues from play calling, the repetitiveness. It's like, the amount of short passes and screens we saw on Monday night is literally not a professional offense. It's not they are playing with one hand behind their back right now. And they're also having extreme issues up front. And guess who is technically in charge of the offensive line? I just unfortunately, this game is a good kind of, put under a microscope of what we were so worried about going into the season, because there was so many issues up front. There's so many issues with the offensive play calling. It's like you're surprised when the Patriots have a play of like more than 20 yards, because you're just expecting them to get 3-4 yards at a time. And And you know what it is? You know, I said this to Steve yesterday, Russ, but it's like, God forbid there's an offensive penalty because they can't overcome it. You just know the drive is over. Illegal shift, illegal formation, holding, false start. You know the drive, they are dead in the water and they can't survive that. And it's unfortunately a lot of what we were worried about heading into the season has been realized. And they just, again, I'm not telling you this is a playoff team with better coaching, but I'll tell you this. Josh McDaniels, Ted Karras, and Shaq Mason were on this team last year, and they were a top 10 statistical offense. Right now, they're ranking anywhere between 25 and 31 in a lot of categories. One guy went to free agency. One guy they traded for a fifth-round draft pick. The other guy became a head coach, and you replaced him with Matt Patricia, and your offense fell off a cliff. And what have been the biggest two issues right now? Play calling / play design and up front. No, I mean, it's simple as that.
I think McDaniel is the real reason because
I agree with that. Definitely.
You know, they lost.
Hasn't Onwenu done a good job, Steve? Honestly,
he's been terrific.
But Onwenu's done a tremendous job this year, and so I don't look at that as being a big drop off, if at all.
No, it's McDaniels.
It's McDaniels because, you know, granted, early last season they had, you know, the shackles on Mac Jones because he was a rookie and they were afraid of, you know, him making too many mistakes and then losing his confidence. But, you know, late in the season, they were allowing him to do a little bit more. I know if McDaniels had stuck around, they were going to open the playbook up.
Yep.
And this year, I mean, a prime example, I think, in the first quarter and maybe into the early second quarter, I watched 3rd and 11, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 14, and 3rd and 11 on 3 consecutive drives.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't be successful this way.
No.
I don't care who you are. If you're constantly behind the sticks like that, you're not going to win many football games. And, you know, luckily they were able to overcome that. But, I mean, that's all on coaching. And they're so predictable. On first down, they're going to run the football. Okay, I get it. You're a running team. But you have to mix that up. You have to put your quarterback under center and at least give them the illusion that you may play action pass. You know, and it's everyone says, oh, the Patriots don't have a great skill position group.
Yeah.
These guys are plenty good to win a lot of football games.
Oh, I totally agree, Steve. And I think going back to something Derek said, and then I definitely want to talk a little bit about the defense in your report card, is that Derek said that we're not getting the best out of these players. And I would totally agree with that.
Totally
you have 2 tight ends that they spent so much money on, and you are not getting a return on investment. Is it the players or is it the coaching behind the players? I'm leaning towards it's the coaching because they're not putting in these 2 players in the best position to succeed. Now, did they give too much money to Nelson Aguilar? Possibly. But are you put him in the best position to succeed? Why isn't Kendrick Bourne play? I mean, I can go on and on and on. They have players there that can help you win games.
And watch the film. Watch the all-22s after these games. And, you know, people want to complain and bitch and moan about, you know, Nelson Aguilar. Hey, I get it. He does drop a lot of passes. We've always known that. That's been his MO. But you look how they're using him and Bourne.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're running 4, 5, 6 yard routes. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why is he only getting 5 yards in a reception? Because you're throwing to him in front of the linebackers.
Exactly. Steve, let's move on because I definitely want to get your thoughts and Derek's thoughts. Actually, I'll go to Derek first because you wrote this in your report card, so we can just talk about 5 minutes on the Patriots defense. We've already been doing it, but I definitely want to go into a little bit more detail on it. So let me just pull this up quickly, and we'll talk a little bit about the grades. So, Derek, Steve gave defensive line a C, linebackers an A, and then gave the secondary B-. You had a good view of all of this being at the game. Share your thoughts on Steve's grades.
What was the defensive line? You said C?
C.
Yeah, I did think the defensive line struggled a bit in this game. I would agree with Steve's ratings of each positional group. I do think that while the defensive line struggled, I thought the edge rushers had a pretty good game for the majority of it. I did like the way that James Conner, the Cardinals running back, ran. He's a tough guy. He's a tough guy to bring down. He's really big too. He's bigger than you'd think. On television. Too. But I'm sorry.
He's strong.
Extremely. But I think the Patriots secondaries play well. I thought Marcus Jones was forced. He was kind of forced into the lineup with Jack Jones getting hurt. I don't know how serious that is. I think it's going to be kind of like a day-to-day situation with Jack with the knee issue. I think obviously Jalen Mills has been out for a little while, and I think John Jones has been doing the best he can in some very tough spots that the coaching staff is putting him in right now. Because I don't think he's. I think we all are we're probably all on the same page. He's a good player, but he's not at the level where he should be covering some of these number one guys one-on-one, but they don't really have any other options. He's the best one. And I think that he's done a very good job, considering this, the circumstances. They were really spinning the dial on who was covering DeAndre Hopkins in this game. And look, a lot of the times they answered the call. So I think defensively, they certainly made plenty of plays. I thought that they were better in the second half than the first half, but they also were able to kind of pin their ears back a little bit more too, because of the way the game unfolded. So, I give the defense some credit for kind of establishing them after they were able to establish themselves, for really kind of taking over and closing out the game.
Right. And I think Steve's grades are very fair, especially
Yep.
on the defensive line, because they were having a really hard time stopping Connor. So it's fair grade to give it a C, but I think it's an excellent read. I think you definitely should read what Steve shared, and giving an A to linebackers, I completely agree with that. And I thought the secondary held their own with what they were dealing with, being hamstrung by the injury. And like you mentioned, Derek, Jalen Mills being out. So real quick, guys, before we preview the game, I do definitely want to talk about the Lou Merloni situation. We'll do that in another show. I do want to talk about one subject, though, and I want to address this because I was called out about this from Miguel, and I just want to address this and get your thoughts. Is this season over? Now, let me clarify what I kind of mean by that, and then I want to get your thoughts, and then we'll preview the game.
You mean last week when you said the season was over?
Yes, I did say that. I said that, yes, they could get into the playoffs. I don't want path talk. I said all that. But where it's coming from is I don't see them as a contender in the playoffs, even if they got in. I've accepted that. The loss to the Bills kind of showed me where they are. They are who they are, 7-6. They're an average football team. Let's just call it what it is. They could still make the playoffs. But what I mean is the season over. I'm talking about if you are thinking about it in terms of they could potentially do something in the playoffs. I don't see it. So that's kind of where I'm going on it. My focus is more to what we've been talking about the games, but also talking about what we're seeing coming down the road, guys. We're seeing young players having significant roles on this team. And that to me is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the future, what we're seeing. I'm watching very closely the Mac Jones situation, Jack Jones, Marcus Jones. Even I'm going to say the backup quarterback we might see. Who knows? Bailey Zappi. We don't know in the future if we'll see him again. But this rookie class is probably one of the best rookie classes they've had in a long time. And I'm watching their development and the young players. You're shaking your head no, Derek?
I just don't. I just don't want to just jump to conclude. I mean, it's only been 13 games of their career, 14 games. I mean, we're talking about.
I'm talking about say your first year.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, we all thought that last year's draft class was a home run, and we don't know about Mac Jones, and Christian Barmore's been absent all year. So I don't want to just jump to. I just don't. It's hard. I know it. I know everyone wants instant gratification. I'm with you, but Draft classes, it takes a couple of years, and it's hard because
does.
guess what? Before the other game, before this game, Russ, I would have told you that Pierre Strong had made a boneheaded play and hasn't done anything. Kevin Harris hasn't done anything. I mean, there's no. It's just we don't know Russ yet. It's just that's all I'm saying. It's just too early.
Okay, but what are your thoughts about me bringing up is this season over? Where I'm going on that, I'm focusing on the players themselves and basically accepting what I think this team is, which is an average football team, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, they are what they are, and right now, I don't think they're playing as well as they could be. I get torn because in many respects, we saw this coming. I mean, collectively, our listeners too, saw this coming. But I still think this team is underperforming, and I do think it's a large part to coaching. I really do.
Okay, fair.
Hey, to be fair, I did pick like an 8 or 9 or 9 or 8 record. You both thought that they were going to be better, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I think that you guys could have been right if they had better coaching on this team. I don't think they're being coached as well as they can be. I really don't. I think from a talent perspective, they would be even worse if Bill wasn't the head coach of this team. From a record standpoint, I think they'd be at least 2 or 3 games worse than without him. Well, but I also know that he can't do it by himself, and that he needs that it's clear. It's extremely clear, especially on offense right now, that they're spread too thin and they don't have enough. Now, from a personnel standpoint, they need help. There's no doubt. I'm not telling you this is the most talented football team. And Russ, to your point, they could make the postseason, and I don't consider them a contender either. But at the same time, I think a lot of their problems have been from a coaching standpoint this year.
Okay.
And it's evident.
Okay, and I'm not going to disagree with that, Derek, because I think that they're not utilizing the talent that they have. And if that's the case, that goes back to coaching. Steve, do you understand where I was going with the "is this season over" mantra from last week? That's where I was going on it. Yes, I was frustrated by Buffalo.
But it came out all wrong.
Probably. Probably. And that's a Goldman, as Miguel said. Well, there are 2 Goldmans for you.
You didn't explain it further. So,
yeah.
Hey, look, we all know the last 4 games schedule for the Patriots is daunting. Okay. We all know that. But we've seen crazier stuff happen in the past. I mean, we talk about, whatever, but they're only a game behind Miami.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks Miami's kind of a juggernaut this year. The Patriots are only a game behind them.
I know.
And then, Miami's coming here. And as we all know, at that time of the year, the weather can turn really crappy in Gillette, it can turn crappy up in Buffalo. You never know what's going to happen. And that's why I'm saying, hey, look, do I think they're going to compete for the conference title? No. But I'm not, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, the playoffs are out of the question. Because the fact of the matter is, if the season ended today, they'd be in. Are they going to make noise? Not the way the offense is constructed as present, but, like I said, you never know what's going to happen. So, they have to play it out. And right now they're doing really well. I read a lot last week where people quoting sources in the Patriots organization that if they lost to the Cardinals, that Belichick's future would be in question. And I have to laugh at that because I'm like, without Belichick this year, where do you think they're at? They're not 7-6. And I'm not talking, they're not going to be higher up. They'd probably be about 3-10?
Maybe. And that's, again, and listen, we're going to do this on a future show.
But who would you replace him with?
Well,
all right. Oh, Bill,
that's been my thing. Who are you going to replace him with?
Sean Payton.
Yeah. I was going to be a smart and say, oh, Matt Patricia.
Okay. All right. Enough.
I'm not saying. Hang on. I'm not saying I'm going to fire Bill for Sean Payton. I'll tell you though. I'm not. This is not kidding. If Robert Kraft came to Bill at the end of the season, and he said, "So what's your plan with the offensive coaches? I think we need some help." And Bill said, "I think we're going to be okay. We're going to run it back." I'd say, "There's the door," and I'd call Sean Payton right there. Be like, "All right, here's 10 years, $100 million or whatever you want. Here's 10 and 150." You know.
Okay. Enough talk about future coaches and will Bill survive? I think he's going to survive, but
I think he'll survive too.
Yes. Coming up next, guys, we're going to preview very quickly the upcoming game for the Patriots against the Vegas Raiders. Okay, guys, let's get to it. Steve, I'll give you first crack at this before we break down which team has the advantage. Thoughts on McDaniels and the Raiders?
Well, when we saw the Raiders in training camp, the Patriots had, a couple of joint practices with them. And then, we saw them in that preseason game. I was thinking, whoa, this team is going to be really good this year, and they started off horribly. And then they went on a roll. But then, their season took a big hit when they lost that game last week.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is a team also that has underperformed. I thought they were getting it together, but we're going to see their A game on Sunday.
Okay.
Guarantee it, as Justin Wilson used to say.
Okay. Derek, quickly your thoughts, and then we'll break down this game.
Well, I think the Raiders have had a tough start to the season. They rallied back a little bit and then lost in some heartbreaking fashion to the Baker Mayfield-led Rams last week, which was pretty bizarre.
Boomer Sooner.
You know what's funny? What's funny is I thought that there was a lot of criticism for the Raiders playing press coverage that last drive. When the Rams, when it came back and won. But I've also heard 1,000 times how guys are playing too far off. So that just shows you no one's going to be happy anymore. But Look, I think what many of us, well, not me, but many people thought that kind of overlooked with this Raiders team is how bad the secondary is. I mean, and which is why I didn't really understand why I thought like the Chargers to me has been a little surprising. I thought they'd be better than what they have been, but I thought it was, Chiefs, Chargers before the season. Yeah. I know people like Rich Eisen, for example. I love Rich. I'm just using him as an example. They thought the Raiders were going to win the whole thing. And look, Chandler Jones came and Max Crosby's a beast up front. They have some nice rushers, but their secondary is really, really, a huge question mark. And that's let them down a lot this year. I think the offense has gotten better because people, are impatient and they don't realize that, hey, Josh is implementing a whole new system. They had to get everybody on board. They've had a lot of injuries. Darren Waller's missed a big chunk of the year, but you got Josh Jacobs, who's absolutely having his best career year. And they have a lot going on, to deal with on offense, but defensively, they can be had in the secondary. If the Patriots can block Max Crosby, which is a tall order, they'll have opportunities to score in this game, but I'll be curious to see how it comes.
Okay. Well, Derek, I'm going to go right back to you. Let's talk about the passing game, and then I'll go to you, Steve. I'm sorry. Do you have something you want to say, Steve?
Yeah. Can we roll back the time machine to preseason? Because everyone was talking about, that division is going to be a juggernaut. And I remember saying, there's going to be one team that kind of rises to the top, and the rest of them are all playing each other, twice a year. That I didn't think more than one team was going to make the playoffs out of that division. And I think it's really looking that way right now. Maybe the Chargers, make it because their schedule is not that daunting. So maybe the Chargers.
I think the Chargers make it over the Patriots right now because I just think the Patriots' schedule is harder and the Chargers is,
I'm not sure Miami's going to make it.
Really?
Well, you look at them the last 2 weeks. They seem to have hit a roadblock.
It's the offensive line has been an issue for them.
Yep. And what happens if that offensive line continues to be an issue and that quarterback gets hurt?
Yeah. Yep. It's true.
Fair point. All right, Derek, let me go to you. Which team has the advantage when the Patriots are on offense and the Raiders are on defense in the passing game. We were just talking about it. So who do you give the advantage to here?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to say it, but I'm going to give the Patriots the advantage. I do think
Steve's
that
agreeing.
there's a few players on that Raiders defense that are good players, but I just think, I mean, name one. Russ, can you name a cornerback on the Raiders?
I can't.
Yeah, right off the top of your head, right? I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying it's like there's not a lot of names that a lot of people would know right off the top of their head in that secondary. And look, I think the Patriots have been extremely conservative, maybe even to a fault at certain times this season in the passing game. I do think this is a week where you can dial up some of what they wanted to do early on in the year, which is take bigger shots down the field. Again, the biggest thing is that you take care of Max Crosby off the edge. The Patriots tackle situation has been horrendous all season long. They need to figure out a way to take Max Crosby out of this game. If they do that, the Patriots will be able to put up points and move the ball.
Okay. That's where Yodny Kajust comes in this week.
Hopefully.
What do you think? It's 6 offensive linemen, Steve?
6.
Yep.
And I double team whatever side Crosby decides to match up with. Yep. I'm putting that extra tackle on that side.
I agree.
And the old Belichick thing, if you're going to beat us, you're not going to beat us with that
guy. Right.
Yep.
That's what I do this week.
What they used to do with J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt was never going to beat them. They weren't going to allow it. And that's what they should do this week. All right, Steve, over to you. Which team has the advantage when the Patriots are on offense and the Raiders are on defense in the running game?
I think the Raiders do. The offensive line has not been great at opening holes there. And I think that's the strength of the Raiders' defense is their run defense. So I don't expect a whole lot on the ground this week. I know a lot of people were mentioning, because if you look at the stats from Monday night, they averaged 4.9 yards a carry. They rushed for 102 yards. 74 of those yards were on 3 plays.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good stuff, Steve. Right back to you. Who has the advantage when the Patriots are on defense and the Raiders are on offense in the passing game?
I think New England does. I think that they can get after Carr.
Derek Carr.
Who and I have always liked Derek Carr. I know a lot of people are kind of, on the fence with him. I've always liked him, but I think they can get after him. I think they figured out the roles for their pass rushers, although I do think that you're going to see a much bigger front seven this week because of the next thing we're going to talk about. I think you're going to see a lot of Tavai and Bentley in the middle, but I still think they can get after Derek.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I think we have to factor this in. How much is McDaniels a factor in this game?
Oh, he's huge because he knows the Patriots. I mean, he's been here long enough. He knows their defensive philosophy. He's gone against it in practice for, I don't know, over a decade, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he knows what they like to do in situations. So, that is going to be
vice versa too.
That's true.
Bill's going to know, and obviously Gerard Mayo and Steve, they're going to know how to beat that offense. They're going to know. That thing works both ways.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to mention that. Derek, over to you. When we get to the running game with the Raiders on offense and the Patriots are on defense, like you have already mentioned, very good back. Who do you give the advantage to?
Well, I'm going to give the advantage to the Raiders because Josh has had a good year. And the Patriots have had kind of Jekyll and Hyde moments with the run defense this year. I think that they've done a pretty good job in certain situations. But, I mean, even this last game, James Conner had 85 yards on 15 carries, and he was running for 5.7 a clip. So, look, I think this is one of those games, guys, where it's going to be very interesting how the game declares itself. I could see in some scenario Bill being comfortable with Josh having some success on the ground because he knows that there are some offensive weapons that they have to worry about in the passing game. If the Patriots get a lead, the run defense isn't going to be as big of an issue as it would be if the Raiders can get some points early. Because if the Raiders can get some points early, I think Josh knows that he just needs to stay in front from a point perspective because the Patriots aren't going to come back. They can't put up a lot of points. So I think that would be a scenario that would be worrisome if you're a Patriots fan because, Josh Jacobs, can kind of dictate the game with his legs. If the Patriots are able to get a lead up on this game, I think the situation would be a little bit different. But I'm going to give the Raiders the edge here because Josh Jacobs has had a really, really nice year.
Okay. Guys, let's finish up. Let's do this fairly quickly. Steve, over to you. I want your 3 keys to victory and a prediction for the game.
Yeah, I think from a Patriots perspective, key number 1, I think, is start fast. Derek just mentioned that. If you get up on a lead on the Raiders, the running game becomes less of an issue, and I think that's a great key. And kudos to you, my man. But number 2, I think you have to go with a jumbo offensive line in this game. Not only will it help your pass protection, it should help in the running game as well. So I'm looking for Yadnik Adjust, being that extra tackle eligible, I guess you could say, in this game. Not that they're going to throw it to him,
right?
But and number 3, I think you have to start, and then we've said this for 13 weeks, pushing the ball down the field and get your tight ends involved in this game. I mean, those seam passes, we see them every time. Anyway, we've beat that horse to death.
Yep.
But that's my number 3 key.
And
I think they pull this one out. I'm
really?
going to, yeah. I think it's going to be 24-21.
24-21.
Wow.
I think the defense steps up.
Okay.
Wow.
Mr. Havens, how about you? Your 3 keys to victory and your prediction.
Well, my prediction is similar to Steve's, which is funny.
Wow.
My first key to me in this game, we talked about it, was you got to take Max Crosby out of the game. I mean, the Patriots offensive line's been really bad this year. I'm not telling anyone anything they don't know. It's been bad on the edges. Trent Brown's not playing well. Right tackle is a turnstile. I think that I like Steve's idea of adding that 6th offensive lineman, and it can't be a tight end. I don't think either one has had success blocking, right now, but they need to figure out a way they can take Max Crosby out of this game. My second key, guys, is the red zone. Again, so many issues in the red zone all year long. And I really think that, and I'm going to use a term that's kind of getting more popular right now, the high red zone. Okay. Like, when you're approaching the red zone or just inside of it, take a couple shots in the end zone. They do not throw the ball into the end zone. Mac Jones has 7 touchdown passes this year. 7. That's it. I almost have 7. I mean, what are we talking about? So you got to throw the ball into the end zone. They have to figure out a way to operate when it gets tight in the red zone. The red zone is a big thing for me. And the third thing to me is just keep it simple. A commandment for the show. Kiss, baby. Simple. Keep it simple, stupid. All right? Josh McDaniels, we know he's going I'm sure Josh is going to dial some things up for this game. Okay? I'm sure Matt Patricia and Bill are going through it. Okay, yeah. There will no less the over-under for 2.5 trick plays this game. I'm taking the over from Josh. I'm sure those are going to be some things that are dialed up. I just think the Patriots need to keep it simple. If they play their game and they don't turn the ball over, I think even with their limited offense, they're going to score, or they're going to outscore the Raiders.
Okay.
Steve, you were about to chime in and say something. What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I had the thumb up because I think the over-under for trick plays by the Raiders will be more than 2.5.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. Prediction.
I fully expect them to throw a flea flicker in this game.
Oh yeah, I could see it. Prediction for me. You said 24-21. I'm going 23-20 Patriots.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have no idea why, but I'm just picking.
Okay, because you guys are so positive, and I don't want to feel the wrath of Miguel again. I'm going 21-17 Patriots because I don't want that again. So I'm going to go 21-17. I am going to go with you guys. And listen, I understand why you're predicting a Patriots victory. And, if they play their game, if they open up a little bit like you're talking about, they can beat this team. This is going to be a chess match, but in my mind, like you said, Derek, keep it simple. Don't overthink it, because I think Josh might overthink it.
Exactly.
So,
And I think the Patriots a lot of their games have been tight in the beginning. And then if the Patriots win, they've been able to create some separation on the back end. I think the Raiders have shown that they've made a lot of dumb mistakes in critical situations. So as long as the Patriots don't hurt themselves with penalties or turn the ball over a lot early, I think the Raiders are going to be the ones that lose this game and the Patriots will be able to win it. That's how I see this game going. We'll see. I mean, I think the Raiders are more talented. They certainly can score more points. Devontae Adams I don't know how the Patriots are going to cover him. It's going to be a tough road from that standpoint. But if the Patriots can keep them out of the red zone and not hurt themselves, I think they're going to give themselves an opportunity to win a close game at the end.
Okay, excellent stuff. Great show, guys. Great show. Before we go on, I'm going to just share a little final thought. It's something that I believe we talked about it at the beginning of the show. I did want to talk a little bit about it. I'll do it in a future show, about the negative angle and how we're all affected by it, especially me living here in Boston. But one thing I do want to share is that I was up very late watching the Patriots games, guys. Just like you guys were, I had to be up at 3:30 for work. Okay, so I didn't get much sleep, and I didn't really watch or listen to too much except for a little bit of ESPN after the game. So I wanted to hear some talk about the Patriots on my ride to work, literally at 4:30 in the morning. So it's 4:30 in the morning. I put on the Patriots app, and I decide to listen to their post-game show. The first comment I heard, and again, this is kind of where I'm going on when we talk about the negative angle, is I am hearing Paul Perillo say, now I don't want to be condescending here. Now, when you say this, you're actually being condescending. So I just want to say, when someone says, I don't want to be negative or I don't want to be condescending, you're basically saying, you're warning everyone, you're going to be a little condescending.
It's like when someone says no offense. No offense, right. But it's like, all right, so you're about to be extremely offensive.
But I really think you suck.
Right. So
don't take it personal.
Don't take it personal. And listen, it was Paul Perillo, Mike Dussault, and Hardy. Listen, they do a good job. They actually do a better post-game show than the crap that you listen on 98.5 The Sports.
1,000%.
They do a better job. I just found it funny that Paul started that, because I don't think he wanted to be negative, but generally when you say that, it usually is a setup for something negative to come. So I just wanted to mention that. Don't go there. Just don't be negative. Just don't be over negative. You can be critical. Just don't go with that negative angle. We'll talk about that on a future show. Anyways, before we wrap it up, as always, please do subscribe on YouTube and also on Apple Podcasts. It does help Patriots fans find us. And if I keep mentioning this, Ian Logue might not remind me every 5 minutes to please mention this. So I just want to mention that. And please do check out Steve's articles on PatsFans.com. We talked a little bit about it. We shared a little bit of that on Patriots 4th and 2. Please do see Steve and everyone that writes on PatsFans.com. Okay, well, it's time to wrap up this show. For Derek Havens and Steve Balestrieri, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Patriots 4th and 2. Yes, the official podcast of PatsFans.com.